The moment my daughter's small body hit the greasy KFC floor, everything inside me froze. 1 second, she was smiling up at me, clutching her little cup of mashed potatoes, and the next, a high-pitched shriek rattled the entire restaurant. Karen's foot snapped out like it belonged in a karate tournament. Her shoe slammed into my disabled daughter's leg brace, so hard the metal bent with a crack. My daughter screamed. Customers gasped. A tray dropped somewhere. And that woman, that furious HOA, Karen wearing a bright, obnoxious pink jacket, she pointed at my daughter and yelled, "Get your broken toy out of my way." She didn't know who I was. She didn't know what I was trained to do. She didn't know she had just kicked the daughter of a Navy SEAL. And trust me, she was about to learn. Hey, everyone, before we dive deep into the story, a quick question for you. Speech balloon, which city are you watching from? Go ahead and drop your city in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel across the USA. And before we start, make sure you hit that subscribe button because more real, emotional, and justice-filled stories are coming your way, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next in this one. All right, let's get into it. This story begins on a Saturday I'll never forget. A simple lunch trip became the moment my daughter's courage was tested, and the moment an HOA Karen crossed a line she would regret for the rest of her life. My little girl, Grace, is 8 years old. She's disabled, but she has the biggest smile, the sweetest heart, and the purest way of seeing the world. She loves mashed potatoes, she can't stand spicy food, and she laughs at absolutely everything. But on that day, her laughter disappeared. KFC wasn't supposed to be dangerous. It wasn't supposed to be violent. It wasn't supposed to be the place where a grown woman used her foot to hurt a child. But this isn't just a story about pain. It's about strength. It's about justice. It's about what happens when someone tries to break the wrong family. Now let's begin. Saturday afternoons at KFC were always our thing. A little father-daughter ritual after her physical therapy sessions. Sometimes we'd sit by the window. Sometimes she'd insist we sit near the soda fountain so she could hear the PSSSHH sound of the carbonation machine. She said it reminded her of fireworks. That afternoon, she was in her wheelchair, leg brace tightened, smiling at anyone who made eye contact. Grace has that effect on people. She lights up rooms without trying. I held the door open for her, rolling her inside. The restaurant was busy. Families, teenagers, workers on a lunch break, the usual crowd. Grease hung in the air, the fryers hissed, and trays clattered. Nothing unusual. But then, I noticed her. A woman standing near the counter, tapping her foot rapidly, like she was trying to drill a hole through the floor. Her chin was lifted high, eyes narrowed, blonde bob cut stiff with too much hairspray, and her hot pink jacket practically glowing under the fluorescent lights. I recognized the type instantly. Not the woman herself, but the attitude, the entitlement, the rules don't apply to me posture. An HOA Karen. She was arguing with the cashier about a coupon that expired in 2019. "No, you listen to me," she snapped, loud enough to rattle napkin holders. "If your system doesn't accept it, fix your system." I quietly wheeled Grace to an empty table. "Daddy, she's loud," Grace whispered. "I know, sweetheart," I said softly. "Just focus on your lunch." I left her for a few seconds, 30 feet away, to grab napkins and straws. I kept her in full sight. After 15 years in the Navy SEALs, my instincts never turn off. Grace sat peacefully, swinging her hands, humming to herself. And that's when the Karen turned around. Her head jerked toward Grace like she had just spotted something disgusting on the floor. Her face twisted. She took a step toward my daughter. Then another. Something felt wrong. I started walking back fast. Grace smiled politely at her. "Hi, ma'am." Karen's eyes widened as if Grace had insulted her. "Don't talk to me," she snapped. I was still 15 feet away. Karen leaned in closer. "Why is this thing sitting in the middle of the walkway? Move it." Grace's voice wavered. "My dad, he's coming." "Move." Karen barked. I shouted, "HUI." Back away from her. Too late. Karen's foot lashed out. A brutal kick, full force, straight at my daughter's leg brace. The metal cracked with a sickening bend. Grace screamed, hands flying to her leg. Her wheelchair jerked sideways and hit the floor. Karen, someone gasped from behind the counter. My vision tunneled. My heartbeat roared in my ears. I sprinted the last 10 steps. Customers froze. A mother covered her child's eyes. A teenager fumbled his phone, trying to record. Employees stood in shock. Karen pointed at my crying daughter and shouted, "This is why disabled kids shouldn't be out in public. They block everything." I stopped inches from her. "Touch my daughter again," I whispered, "and you won't be able to walk out of here." She scoffed, completely unaware of who she was talking to. "Oh, please, what are you going to do?" My jaw tightened. I checked Grace first, kneeling, touching her shoulder, wiping her tears. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here." She sobbed. "Daddy, my leg." I lifted her gently back into her chair, ignoring Karen's dramatic sighs. "Are you seriously still in my way?" she snapped again. That was it. I rose slowly, turning toward Karen with a calmness that only Navy SEAL training can create. But inside a storm was forming, and she had no idea what she just awakened. The moment I stood up, the entire KFC felt like it went silent. Not because people stopped talking, but because something shifted. You know that feeling when a storm is about to break? When the air gets thick and everyone senses danger without knowing why? That's what it felt like. Karen didn't step back, didn't apologize, didn't even show a flicker of regret after kicking a child. Instead, she folded her arms, puffed her chest, and said loudly, loud enough for the whole restaurant to hear, "Maybe if you raised your kid properly, she wouldn't be lying on the floor like a tripped-over mop." A few customers gasped. Someone near the soda fountain muttered, "Oh, hell no." And an old man in the corner said, "Lady, you're about to regret that." But Karen didn't stop. Karen never stops. She jabbed her finger toward Grace again. "You people think that disability gives you special privileges. It doesn't. This is a public place. If she's too weak to walk, that's not my problem." I stepped between her and my daughter, my voice low and controlled, the kind of control that takes years of Navy SEAL discipline. "You need to calm down and step back for my kid. Right now." Karen rolled her eyes and let out a mocking laugh. "Oh, I'm so scared. What are you, some wannabe tough guy? This is KFC, not a war zone." Her words were sharp, but her ignorance was sharper. A teenage boy recording whispered to his friend, "Bro, why is she still talking? That guy looks like he could break a car in half." Karen turned to the boy, filming. "Stop recording me, or I'll sue you and your broke little family." The boy kept recording. Karen lunged toward him, and that's when I moved. Not violently, not aggressively, just fast. I stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "Don't touch him." She blinked, startled by the speed. Then she smirked. "Oh, so now you're playing hero? Your little broken doll is crying on the floor, and you're here trying to be Superman." That did it. Grace whimpered behind me, "Daddy, my leg hurts." Karen pointed at her again. "Ugh, see? This is why disabled people shouldn't be out in restaurants. They're nusa." Don't finish that sentence. My voice was calm, but every letter carried weight. The restaurant manager, a young woman named Lila, finally rushed over. "What's going on here?" "Ma'am, you can't yell at customers." Karen spun on her like a tornado. "You! I want this entire family kicked out. They've ruined my lunch. Their crippled kid." "Stop." This time, the manager raised her voice. Karen froze, shocked that someone dared interrupt her. "Lady," Lila said firmly, "you kicked a child. A disabled child." Karen stared, offended as if she were the victim. "She was in my way. You could have walked around her." The manager's voice cracked with disbelief. "I shouldn't have to walk around disturbances." Karen shouted, "Disturbance." I repeated quietly. Karen turned back to me, eyes blazing, mouth twisted with disgust. "Yes, disturbance. If she can't move fast enough, then keep her at home." What kind of father brings a defective kid to a restaurant? Everything inside me snapped. For a split second, I genuinely saw red. Not the red of anger, the red of danger. The The red that flickers into seal mode, the instinct to protect at any cost. Customers murmured angrily. A woman near the bathroom said, "Throw her out." Someone else added, "She kicked a child. Call the police." But Karen? She straightened her jacket, flicked her hair, and muttered, "You people are dramatic. She's not even that hurt." Grace curled into herself, holding her knee, tears streaking her cheeks. "She's a child," I said. "You injured her." Karen scoffed. "Injured? It was a tap. Kids exaggerate." A man in line stepped forward. "No, lady. That was a full kick. You nearly broke her brace." Karen's lips tightened. "Are you all teaming up on me? Because I know my rights." Then she pointed directly at me. "You think you're a tough guy? You're nothing. I'll get you banned from every restaurant in this city. I'll get the HOA involved. I took one step closer." Her voice faltered. "You have 30 seconds, I said softly, to walk away, sit down, and stop talking before this becomes something far worse for you." Karen laughed, but it wasn't confident. It was nervous. "What are you going to do?" she said shakily. "Hit me? That's illegal. I'll sue you. My husband is a lawyer." I leaned close enough for only her to hear. "I don't need to hit you." Her jaw tightened. "What's that supposed to mean?" I whispered, "It means you picked the wrong family and the wrong father." Her eyes narrowed. "Why? Who are you?" I straightened, and for the first time since entering the restaurant, I let her see it, the steel in my posture, the unshakable calm, the silent power that SEALs carry like second skin. "I'm a Navy SEAL," I said simply. Karen's mouth fell open. The whole room gasped. The teenage boy whispered, "Oh, she's dead." Someone near the Friars said, "Yep, she messed with the wrong dude." Karen stumbled back, half a step, but she wasn't done. Not even close. "SEAL or not, I'm not apologizing," she screamed. "I did nothing wrong. I won't be intimidated by some military psycho." She shoved a table, knocking over trays, pointing at me like a rabid animal. "You're done," she shrieked. "I'll destroy you. I'll destroy your daughter. I'll—" That was the moment the door swung open, and the police walked in. But not just any police. Someone who knew me, and someone who would change everything for Karen. The glass door of KFC swung open so hard it smacked the wall, and every head turned. 2 police officers stepped inside, but it was the man in front who made Karen's face drain of color. Officer Daniel Reyes, a man I'd served with overseas. A Marine before he joined law enforcement, sharp, fearless, and loyal. He locked eyes with me instantly. "Brother, what happened?" Before I could speak, Karen shoved past 2 tables and pointed dramatically at me like a deranged game show contestant. "Officer, finally, arrest him. Arrest this thug. He threatened me. His freak kid was blocking the way, and he—" Daniel raised one finger. "Just one. Stop talking." Karen blinked. "W what?" He repeated, calmly but with the authority of someone who didn't need to shout to demand respect. "Stop talking." Karen's mouth clicked shut, shockingly, for the first time since this disaster began. Officer Daniel's partner, Officer Green, surveyed the scene. My daughter crying. Her leg brace severely bent. Tables knocked over. Customers pointing at Karen. Phones recording. Employees near tears. And me, standing silent but burning inside. Green asked gently, "Sir, is your daughter okay?" I knelt beside Grace, brushing back her hair. She's shaken. Her legs hurt. She was kicked. Customers erupted at once. She did it. That blonde lady. She kicked the little girl. Hard. She needs to be arrested. She called the kid defective. Karen's eyes widened in outrage. "Oh, please. You people are exaggerating. The kid was in my way. I barely touched her." One man shouted, "Liar, you hit her like you were punting a football." Another woman added, "You almost knocked her wheelchair over." Karen spun toward them, hair whipping. "You all shut up. You're bullying me. I'm the victim here." Officer Daniel stepped closer to her. "Ma'am, did you kick this child?" She stuttered. She was obstructing my path. So that's a yes. I didn't kick, I nudged. He cut her off, brace cracked, child injured, witnesses everywhere. That's assault. Karen gasped dramatically like someone had just told her she was banned from Target for life. Assault? On a disabled child? But I'm a homeowner. I pay HOA fees. I know my rights. Daniel didn't flinch. Your HOA doesn't apply inside a KFC. Karen's face twisted. You're all insane. He's threatening me. He said he's a Navy SEAL. Now, Daniel turned to me. You good? I nodded once. Then she's lying. Karen stomped her foot. You're taking his side? Why? Daniel leaned in. Because I know this man, and he's not the type to hurt anyone unless they hurt his family. Grace whimpered. I picked her up gently, holding her close. Her tiny hands clutched my shirt. Daddy, why did she do that? My heart cracked. I don't know, sweetheart, but you're safe now. Hearing that broke something inside the room. Customers grew emotional. Anger simmered. Even the employees looked ready to throw Karen into a fryer. Karen suddenly pointed at my daughter again. This is ridiculous. That little brat was. A woman near the counter slammed her palm on the table. Say another word about that child, and I'm recording you permanently. Karen flinched. Officer Green stepped forward. Ma'am, turn around. Hands behind your back. Karen shrieked. What? No, I didn't do anything. He's lying. They're lying. You can't arrest me. My husband is a lawyer. I know people. Daniel stayed calm. You assaulted a disabled minor. You're being detained. Detained? For what? Her voice cracked like a plate thrown against a wall. Green repeated, slower this time, as if talking to someone 4 IQ points above a goldfish. For assault on a disabled child. Then Karen did what all Karens do at their breaking point. She screamed. A long, dramatic, siren-like scream that rattled the fryers. No, this is unfair. I'm not going to jail. She tried to yank her arm away. Daniel didn't even blink. He twisted her wrist lightly, firmly, enough to immobilize her. And before she realized it, the cuffs were already on. She stared at the metal on her wrists like she'd never seen handcuffs before. This is illegal, she whimpered. Green sighed. Ma'am, everything you've done today is illegal. As they began walking her toward the door, she jerked around, pointing her cuffed hands toward me. This isn't over. I'll sue you. I'll sue him. She pointed at Daniel. And him. She pointed at some random teenager. I'll sue all of you. Then she pointed at Grace. And you. Daniel stepped in front of her, so fast the cuffs rattled. Finish that sentence, he said quietly, and you won't see daylight until next Christmas. Karen swallowed her words, finally defeated, finally silent. As they escorted her outside, customers clapped, employees cheered. One lady shouted, "That's what you get." And a teenager yelled, "Post that on TikTok." But right when I thought it was over, Karen twisted her head back toward me and screamed, "This isn't the end. My husband will destroy you." Officer Daniel paused. Funny you mention that. Karen froze. What? Daniel smirked slightly. Because your husband is already on his way. Karen blinked fast. Why? He doesn't know anything. Daniel stared at her with an expression that made customers fall silent again. Oh, he knows, he said. He called 911. Karen's jaw dropped. My husband called the police? Daniel nodded. Yep. And he told dispatch, if my wife is at KFC, you might want to send backup. The room exploded with laughter. But me? I felt something darker. Because if her husband knew she was capable of this much destruction, then he knew something else too. This wasn't the last confrontation. Not even close. Sighed. It's literally the security footage too. Karen blinked rapidly. But, Harold, baby, you have to defend me. Harold shook his head slowly, painfully. I've defended you for 10 years. To neighbors. To friends. To your HOA board. even to police, twice. Customers murmured in shock. But this, he said, voice cracking. This is the line. His voice grew stronger. You hurt a child, Karen. A disabled child. Karen stepped back like she'd been slapped. Harold turned to me next, eyes filled with guilt. Sir, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. She's not well. Karen gasped. How dare you? He ignored her. My wife needs help, real help. And if this is what finally forces her to get it, then so be it. Karen shook uncontrollably. You're choosing them over me? I'm choosing sanity, Harold whispered. Officer Green opened the back door of the squad car. Karen's voice went full banshee. You can't do this to me. I'm a respected member of my community. My HOA needs me. Harold pinched the bridge of his nose. That's exactly the problem. Karen lunged toward him, but Daniel grabbed her arms and guided her firmly into the car. She screamed the entire time. I'll sue you all. I'll ruin you. Slam. The car door closed. Silence. For the first time all day. Harold looked at me again. Is your daughter all right? I nodded. She's hurt, but she'll be okay. Harold exhaled shakily. If there's anything we can do for you. He looked at my daughter. His expression softened. She didn't deserve that. No child does. I nodded. Thank you. Harold finally turned to Daniel. Please take her. Do what you have to. Daniel nodded. There will be charges. I know, Harold whispered. Maybe that's the only thing that'll stop her. The squad car pulled away, Karen still screaming inside. Customers inside the restaurant watched in stunned silence. One woman whispered, "That might be the craziest thing I've ever seen." Another said, "At least the little girl is safe now." I gently brushed Grace's tears. "You all right, Pumpkin?" She nodded weakly. "It hurts, but I'm okay, Daddy." That was enough for me. But this wasn't the end. Because justice had only taken its first step, and the next part of the story was going to shock everyone even more. The sky outside had shifted to a dull gray, clouds rolling in like the universe itself was frustrated with what had happened. Inside KFC, though the atmosphere was tense and buzzing, people whispered, replaying the scene over and over. Some gave sympathetic looks toward Grace. Others shook their heads at the insanity they had just witnessed. But for me, everything narrowed down to one thing. My daughter needed help. I lifted Grace carefully, keeping her injured leg steady. "Pumpkin, we're going to get your leg checked, okay?" She nodded against my shoulder. "Daddy, is that lady going to hurt other kids?" Her voice was so soft, so afraid. "No," I said firmly. "Not after today." Officer Daniel approached us, clearing a path through the still-shocked customers. "I'll escort you to the ER," he said. "We already called ahead." I nodded. "Thank you." But just as we were about to leave, a police supervisor entered the restaurant. Tall, stern, gray uniform, a clipboard in one hand, a tablet in the other. She walked straight toward us. "Mr. Walker?" she asked. "That's me. I'm Lieutenant Sanders, Internal Affairs Liaison. I'm here regarding the woman who kicked your daughter." Grace clung harder to my shoulder. "What about her?" I asked. Lieutenant Sanders spoke carefully, her voice steady but heavy. "She has a prior record. Multiple complaints, several violent outbursts, 2 pending charges for harassment, and 1 restraining order request." My jaw tightened. Then why was she still out here, hurting people? Lieutenant Sanders sighed. Because her husband kept bailing her out, covering things up, paying small fines, making deals. This time he didn't. He told us he's done protecting her. Harold's exhausted face flashed in my memory. "He also gave us documents," Sanders continued, lowering her voice, "about her behavior, her threats, her obsessions." Obsessions? Before I could ask, "Lieutenant," an officer yelled from the doorway. "We've got something." Sanders and Daniel stepped outside. I followed, Grace still in my arms. 2 officers stood at the back of the black SUV Karen's husband drove. One of them held up a thick binder. The other held a tablet. "What is that?" Daniel asked. The officer turned the binder so we could see. My stomach dropped. It was filled with photos. Photos of children. Kids at the playground. Kids in wheelchairs. Kids in strollers. Kids walking to school. Kids waiting for their parents near stores. Some were printed. Some taped. Some circled in red ink. Next to each one were notes. Handwritten. Panicked. Obsessive. Obstructive. Blocked parking lot. Should not be outside. Dangerous. Report to HOA. Violation of public etiquette. Unfit to be in public. Ban them. My skin went cold. What the hell is this? I whispered. Lieutenant Sanders flipped through. These are hers. Her husband confirmed. She has an unhealthy fixation on children, especially disabled children. I stared at page after page. Notes, dates, times, locations. She's been monitoring kids? I said. Stalking, Sanders corrected. Documenting, reporting. She's been sending these to HOAs, schools, and even county offices. All rejected, but she kept collecting more. Grace tightened her arms around me. Daddy, why did she take pictures of kids? I kissed her forehead. She's sick, sweetheart. Sanders turned to her team. This changes everything. This isn't just simple assault anymore. This might fall under targeted harassment, maybe even hate-motivated crime. Karen had screamed enough today, but this revelation was louder than anything she'd yelled. I took a slow breath. So, what happens now? Sanders straightened, flipping from page to page. Well, Mr. Walker, because your daughter was injured and because there was intent, we can file multiple charges. Officer Green listed them one by one. Assault on a disabled minor, child endangerment, targeted harassment, hate-motivated threat, disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, and potential stalking charges based on these documents. I blinked. That's a lot. Daniel put a hand on my shoulder. She's going to jail, brother. Real jail. Not just fines or warnings. She's done. Harold stepped forward slowly, hands trembling. I turned it all in, he said softly. She needs help. I couldn't hide it anymore. She's crossed every line. She needs treatment or she's going to hurt someone badly. For a moment, I saw not a man protecting a monster, but a man finally freed from one. Thank you, I said quietly. Harold nodded, eyes wet. I'm sorry for what she did to your child. Sanders placed a hand on Harold's arm. You did the right thing. Daniel turned back to me. Take your daughter to the hospital. She's safe now. We'll handle the rest. But just as I turned to leave, Lieutenant Sanders' tablet buzzed. She looked down. Her eyebrows shot up. What is it? I asked. She hesitated. Then she turned the screen toward me. It was the security footage, not of the kick, we already saw that, but footage from earlier. Footage from the parking lot. Karen wasn't just angry. Karen wasn't just entitled. Karen wasn't just unhinged. She had been watching us, waiting, staring at Grace through the window, pacing near the entrance, muttering to herself, like she had chosen her target, like she had decided, today's the day. I felt a chill crawl through my entire body. Sanders whispered, this wasn't random. She was targeting your daughter from the moment you arrived. My grip tightened protectively around Grace, and in that moment I realized this wasn't just about discipline. This was about danger, real danger, and I wasn't letting it go. Not now, not ever, because when a Navy SEAL's child is targeted, justice doesn't stop halfway. Justice goes all the way. The hours after the attack felt surreal, like my mind was flicking between two worlds. One where I was calmly filling out hospital forms, and another where a storm pressed against my chest every time I remembered the sound of that kick. Grace lay on the ER bed, her fingers wrapped around mine as the doctor examined her brace and leg. Her small face was tired, pale, but she still tried to smile every time I looked at her. Daddy, am I in trouble? She whispered softly. That single question shattered me more than anything Karen had done. No, sweetheart. You did nothing wrong, I said, brushing hair from her eyes. You were brave. She leaned into my hand. I was scared when she yelled at me. I know, I whispered, but you're safe now. The doctor returned with results. The brace was damaged, but thankfully the leg wasn't broken. Just bruised, swollen, and shaken. She would need rest, a new brace, and a few follow-up visits, but she would heal physically. Emotionally, though, that would take time. As the nurses finished cleaning a small scrape on her knee, Officer Daniel entered quietly, removing his hat. He looked at Grace first. How are you feeling, kiddo? She shrugged weakly. My leg hurts, but Daddy's here. Daniel smiled. Your dad's a good one. Then he turned to me. She's in custody. Charges filed. The DA wants to speak with you. I nodded. Any updates? Daniel exhaled. Plenty. He pulled up a chair beside me. The full truth comes out. After she was booked, Daniel said, Karen refused to cooperate, but her husband gave a full statement. He admitted she's been spiraling for years, harassing neighbors, screaming at kids, filing false HOA reports, following people, even threatening a mailman. I clenched my jaw, and no one stopped her. HOA power is weird, Daniel replied. Sometimes it makes the wrong people feel untouchable. He continued, we interviewed witnesses from your neighborhood, too. Turns out, she tried approaching your daughter before. Twice, a cold wave moved through me. When? I asked. Daniel looked down at his notebook. A few weeks ago, near the community playground. She yelled at some kids to get off the swings, and when Grace didn't move fast enough, Karen walked toward her yelling. Grace's therapist intervened. My heartbeat slowed, deep, heavy, and the second time, I whispered. Outside a grocery store, Daniel said, you were loading groceries into the car. She stood across the parking lot watching your daughter, muttering something about kids being in the way. A store employee overheard and reported it, but Karen left before police arrived. Grace squeezed my hand again. Daddy, she wanted to hurt me before? I forced a smile, wiping the tear that escaped down my cheek. No, baby. She was just angry at the world. You didn't do anything. But deep inside, the truth stabbed. Karen wasn't just angry. She was obsessed, and she had made my child her target. Daniel put a hand on my shoulder. Buddy, this wasn't your fault. People like her, they don't see innocence. They see inconvenience. And they snap. I nodded slowly. What's going to happen to her now? Daniel leaned back. The DA is pushing for maximum charges. The stalking, the files, the harassment history, she's looking at real time. Years. And mandatory psychiatric evaluation. Grace looked confused. Is she going to jail forever? I kissed her forehead. No, pumpkin. But she won't come near you again. Her shoulders relaxed a little. Good. The community responds. By evening, my phone blew up with messages from neighbors, coworkers, and even strangers. Videos of the attack had gone viral. Parents were furious. People who had been victims of Karen's harassment came forward. More stories surfaced. More victims shared their experiences. Harold, her husband, even sent a message. Thank you for helping end this. I'm sorry again for what she did. She needed to be stopped. I didn't reply. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I understood his pain, living with someone who becomes a storm every day. By nighttime, the HOA sent a formal message. Karen has been permanently removed from the board. Her community privileges are suspended indefinitely. One neighbor added, your daughter didn't deserve what happened. We're all standing with you. And for the first time that day, I felt something soften in my chest. Maybe not all HOAs were bad. Maybe some people actually cared. Back home, a father's promise. When we finally got home, I carried Grace inside. She clung to me like she didn't want to let go. Her room felt quieter than usual, her stuffed animals lined up neatly, her night light glowing soft yellow. She looked at her wheelchair, nervously. Daddy, will she come back? No, I said confidently. Not ever. You promise? I promise. She lay down in bed, pulling her blanket to her chin. Can I sleep with the door open tonight? Of course. I sat beside her until her eyes fluttered shut, slowly, peacefully. When she was fully asleep, I stepped outside, closing the door softly. Only then did I allow myself to collapse into a chair. My daughter could have been injured far worse. Karen could have done more. It could have ended much differently, but it didn't. Because Grace was stronger than she knew. And because justice moved faster than Karen expected. The powerful message. The world is full of people like Karen. People who see vulnerability as weakness. People who believe empathy is optional. People who bully, scream, and lash out at anyone who doesn't fit their perfect little world. But here's the truth. Disability isn't weakness. Compassion isn't weakness. Standing up for someone is not weakness, it's strength. And sometimes, the strongest people in the world are the ones who fight battles no one else sees. Kids like Grace, parents like you, families who push forward despite challenges. If there's one message this story leaves behind, it's this. Protect the vulnerable. Stand up to bullies. And never underestimate the quiet strength of a child who refuses to stop smiling. If you've ever stood up for someone you love, if you've ever protected your family, if you've ever believed in justice, then support stories like this by liking the video, commenting your city below, subscribing for more true justice stories, because every view, every comment, every share helps spread a message. No child should ever live in fear, not in a restaurant, not in a neighborhood, not anywhere. And together, we can make sure their stories are heard.